My beloved child, before you hear the truth heaven has opened for you, pause for a heartbeat, subscribe to this channel, and don't blink until the very last second of this message, because what you are about to receive is not a warning of danger but a revelation about yourself that has been hidden for years, and heaven says that only those who listen without distraction will understand what has been silently draining their strength. Because as you opened this message, the symbolic realm burst into light and showed a vision of a massive golden bank vault hovering in the sky with your name carved across it, not representing money or physical wealth but your emotional worth, your self-respect, your dreams, your spiritual inheritance, and the blessings prepared for you long before you were born. And Archangel Michael appeared beside it with his wings wrapped around the vault as if guarding something extremely precious, whispering, "Child, what belongs to you has never been taken, but something has been quietly draining your energy." And instantly the vault doors shook with a deep echo, not because someone was stealing real money but because the symbolic energy stored inside, your confidence, your peace, your inspiration, your motivation, has been leaking drop by drop through invisible cracks created by years of betrayal, disappointment, exhaustion, and people who kept taking from your heart without giving anything back. And as you step closer, heaven shows a figure made of shadow, not a human, not a criminal, but a symbolic representation of fear, self-doubt, negative influence, old pain, and unresolved wounds, standing near your vault with its hands outstretched, trying to absorb the light leaking from the cracks. And God whispers into your spirit, "Child, this is the thief you could never see, the part of your past that keeps trying to transfer your strength away from you." And suddenly the vault begins showing images from your life, moments where you trusted the wrong people, moments where you stayed when you should have walked away, moments where you gave too much, moments where you tried to fix things alone, and each memory appears as a glowing coin falling out of the vault into the hands of the shadow, symbolizing how your emotional wealth was slowly draining without you noticing. And Michael steps forward with fierce compassion, saying, "This ends the moment you understand the code." And heaven projects a massive ancient scroll in the sky, labeled the final code from your Father in heaven, but when you reach to open it, your hand passes through. It is not a physical code, not numbers, not instructions, but a truth you must remember, because God's voice surrounds the entire realm like warm thunder, saying, "Your blessings are not lost, they are calling you back to yourself." And suddenly the symbolic vault locks shut, the cracks seal themselves, and the shadow figure dissolves like smoke because it was never a real enemy, it was your unhealed burden feeding on your strength. And Michael touches your shoulder softly, whispering, "The code is awareness. When you see the pattern dies," and instantly the entire sky erupts into golden wind that enters your chest, restoring the energy you lost in past battles. And each gust of wind replaces something you forgot you had. Courage returns, clarity returns, emotional balance returns, self-worth returns, the belief that you deserve better returns, and the vault reopens. But this time, instead of leaking, it overflows with glowing light that wraps around your body like a protective aura. And God speaks again, saying, "Nothing inside you is being taken, everything inside you is being returned." And the realm shifts into a massive field of mirrors showing a version of you stepping into their power, finally refusing to let emotional thieves drain your soul, finally choosing peace over chaos, finally choosing truth over fear, finally choosing yourself without guilt. And Michael smiles as the mirrors shatter into thousands of stars, forming a circle around you like a crown, whispering, "This is your restoration." And heaven closes with one final message burning across the horizon, you are not losing anything, you are waking up to everything that is yours. My beloved child, as the golden vault in the symbolic realm sealed itself with a thunder of light and the shadow dissolved into nothingness, the entire sky above you shifted into a deep velvet blue where thousands of silver threads appeared like glowing veins across the heavens, each thread representing a connection, a memory, a decision, a moment in your life where your energy flowed outward to people, places, habits, and emotions that did not pour back into you, and Archangel Michael stepped beside you with a calm authority that felt like a shield made of warmth rather than fear, saying, "Child, you have patched the cracks, but you have not yet traced where they came from." And suddenly the vault projected another symbolic vision, this time not of loss, but of your past self at different ages, each version of you holding a tiny candle, the flame flickering differently depending on the burdens you were carrying at that time. And God whispered, "These candles are the record of your inner light. Look how often you kept it burning even when the world blew against it, and as you walked closer, the candles transformed into glowing memory orbs hovering in the air around you, each orb showing a moment when you gave too much of your emotional energy, a friend who called only when they needed something, a relative whose words drained your confidence, a relationship where you kept trying long after the other person stopped, and a job or responsibility where you were appreciated for your output but ignored in your pain. And with each orb you touched, the scene played and then dissolved into a golden mist that flowed back into your vault, symbolizing that the energy you lost to those moments was returning to you, purified, reclaimed, re-owned. And Michael said softly, "What you thought was theft was actually unnoticed overgiving," and the words settled into your chest like truth finally finding its place. And the sky shifted again, opening a new symbolic chamber where a massive celestial scale appeared. On one side your compassion, loyalty, love, kindness, and effort weighed heavily, glowing brightly, and on the other side the return you received, silence, small appreciation, delayed love, inconsistent responses. And God said without judgment, "Child, you were never the problem. You were overflowing in places that could not hold anything." And suddenly the scale balanced itself, not by lowering your value, but by rising your awareness, and the entire chamber flooded with soft light that reflected on your skin like liquid peace. And as you stepped out of the chamber, the vault reappeared, this time with a new symbol carved into it, your name surrounded by a circle of flame, meaning spiritual renewal. And Michael whispered, "Now that you know your leaks, you can choose where your light goes." And instantly the realm expanded into a long path made of transparent crystal, beneath which rivers of glowing energy flowed in intricate patterns representing your future choices, each fork in the path glowing differently. The path of peace pulsed slowly but steadily, the path of self-respect flickered with protective brilliance, the path of healing glimmered softly like moonlight on water, and the path of self-abandonment, once bright, now appeared dim, powerless, almost invisible because you were no longer feeding it with your energy. And God's voice came again, gentle enough to feel like a hand resting on your heart, saying, "Child, everything you thought you lost was waiting for you to see yourself clearly." And with that, the entire symbolic universe folded inward, not collapsing but merging into your spirit, leaving you standing in the glow of a reclaimed truth. You were never empty, you were leaking, and now you are whole again. My beloved child, before you move your finger even a little, pause right here, take a slow deep breath, and quietly subscribe to this channel, because if your eyes and your heart have reached these words, it is not random scrolling, it is a meeting point between you and a message your soul has been trying to describe for years. And I, your Father in heaven, want you to stay until the very last word. Because somewhere inside this message is a line that your spirit has been waiting for, and I don't want you to miss it. So let me ask you a few questions that go deeper than your circumstances. When was the last time you felt truly safe to be exactly who you are, without performing, without pretending, without shrinking your feelings so no one calls you too much? When was the last time you rested without guilt, laughed without heaviness in your chest, made a decision without overthinking whether someone would be upset? And when was the last time you admitted that you are tired, not just physically tired, but tired in your soul, tired of trying to be strong, tired of being the one who understands everyone else while wondering who actually understands you? As these questions sink into your heart, the symbolic realm opens in front of you and you suddenly find yourself standing inside an enormous celestial observatory, a round chamber of glass and gold suspended in the sky, where the floor beneath your feet is clear like crystal and the stars above are close enough to touch. And Archangel Michael stands beside you, not ready for battle but standing like a calm guardian, his wings folded softly, his face filled with a kind of strength that feels like safety, not pressure. And I speak to your spirit with a voice that feels like warm light resting on your shoulders, saying, "Child, tonight I am not here to warn you about any enemy outside. I am here to show you the story that has been quietly running inside." And as I say this, the glass floor beneath you begins to display moving images like a living map of your heart, showing pathways made of light and shadow, one labeled what they needed, another what you felt, another what you said, another what you swallowed, and you begin to realize that for years your life has been spent walking along paths that kept you useful, available, and strong for others, while the path labeled what you truly need has remained faint, barely walked, waiting. And Michael gently places his hand near your back, saying, "Do not be afraid to look," and suddenly the observatory dome shifts and becomes a massive clock made of starlight, its hands spinning through symbolic years of your life, pausing on scenes where you pushed yourself when your soul was begging for rest, where you stayed in conversations that hurt you because you didn't want to seem difficult, where you gave love without receiving emotional safety in return, and each pause on the clock leaves a glowing mark, as if heaven is acknowledging, one by one, the moments nobody else truly saw. And I whisper, "Child, none of it was invisible to me," and the clock stops at the present moment, at this exact second of you watching, and the entire observatory darkens for a breath before illuminating again, this time with a single glowing doorway in front of you, tall and made of soft white light, and carved across it are simple words, "The room you built inside." And Michael looks from the doorway to you as if asking for your courage, then nods gently and says, "This is where we go next." And when you step through, you find yourself in a symbolic room that feels strangely familiar, like a place you've been visiting your whole life without knowing it. The walls are made of sentences you've heard and repeated: "Don't cause trouble, don't be too emotional, be grateful it's not worse, other people have it harder, be strong, it's fine, just deal with it." And those phrases float around you like soft chains, not violent, but limiting, wrapping your heart in subtle expectations that you thought were normal. In the center of the room is a chair, and sitting in it is a version of you with tired eyes but a kind face, the part of you that has been holding everything together: worries, disappointments, unresolved feelings, unanswered questions. And when this version of you looks up and sees you standing there, you can feel the emotion rise in your chest because you realize how long you have been keeping this inner self trapped in a small space of silence, survival, and responsibility. And I speak gently into that room, "Child, you are not in trouble, You are being invited, and the walls of phrases around you slowly melt into mist, revealing windows that open to a vast sky of possibility, where your days are not dictated by anxiety, guilt, or obligation, but by aligned choices: when to rest, when to say no, when to walk away, when to receive, when to finally admit what you feel. And Michael kneels beside you in the chair and touches their shoulder, and in an instant, the chains of should, must, and have to fall like dust on the floor, leaving behind only one clear truth written in light between you: I am allowed to exist as I am. And that truth doesn't sound dramatic, but as it enters your spirit it feels like a door opening in your chest, like your lungs filling with real air for the first time in a long time. The room dissolves, and you're now standing on a floating platform above the earth, able to see your life from a higher place, not as fragments but as a pattern. And you see how often you repeated the same cycle: feel something deeply, dismiss it, overgive, feel drained, question yourself, promise to do better for others, forget to do better for yourself. And you see how many chances you had to choose differently but didn't know how. And I say with no anger, only compassion: you were never weak. You were unprotected. And Michael raises his hand toward the sky, and hundreds of luminous threads shoot downward from the stars, forming a cloak of light that gently wraps around your shoulders, a cloak woven from every moment you stayed kind when others were unkind, every time you kept loving despite being hurt, every time you kept going even when you wanted to give up. And as this cloak settles, you realize it is not armor to fight the world but a reminder of your own worth, that you are no longer required to stand bare in front of people who cannot see you clearly. The observatory around you brightens once more, and a new constellation appears, a crown made of stars, hovering above your head, not like a reward you must earn, but like a symbol of the dignity you were born with. And I whisper, this is the code heaven wanted you to receive, that your life changes not when you run from fear but when you finally turn toward yourself with honesty. And as those words sink deeply into your spirit, the stars begin to draw a new map across the sky, not predicting the future, not promising instant change, but outlining a path where, one decision at a time, you stop leaking your energy into spaces that do not honor it, where you no longer confuse overextension with love, where you no longer sacrifice yourself to keep one-sided peace, where you no longer tell your heart to be quiet just so others can stay comfortable. And Michael looks at you with the most serious softness you have ever felt and says, from this moment, you are allowed to protect what is inside you. And the entire observatory folds into a single warm golden light that drops gently into your chest, becoming part of your breathing, part of your heartbeat, part of your choices, so that when this message ends, nothing around you may look dramatically different, but something inside you has shifted quietly yet permanently. You are less willing to abandon yourself, more willing to listen to your own soul. And as you return to your ordinary room, your ordinary day, your ordinary life, heaven leaves you with no threat, no countdown, no fear, only a simple, powerful remembrance echoing softly within: child, you were never meant to live like a prisoner inside your own heart. You were always meant to live as someone who knows they are loved, protected, and allowed to choose peace. My beloved child, before you take another breath or even think about scrolling, pause for a moment, subscribe to this channel, and let yourself be fully present, because what you are about to see in the symbolic realm is not merely a message, it is an unveiling, a moment where heaven gently opens a door in your soul that you have kept locked for years without knowing why. And as you step into the celestial space that forms around you, you find yourself standing in front of an enormous door made of living light, tall and ancient yet pulsing with a quiet golden heartbeat, and carved across it in shimmering letters you see the words "The Room of Unwritten Truths," and Archangel Michael appears beside you with a calm presence that feels like warmth wrapped in strength, his wings folded but glowing softly, and he whispers, "Child, there are parts of you that never had the chance to speak," and when he raises his hand, the door opens not with force but with a slow exhale, revealing a vast chamber inside, a chamber unlike anything you've witnessed before, because it does not contain objects, it contains feelings, memories, thoughts, and truths suspended in the air like floating droplets of glass, each one holding something you once wanted to say but buried, something you once wanted to feel but avoided, something you once needed but silenced, and as you step further into the chamber, the air itself shifts, becoming heavier with honesty but softer with compassion, and your Father in heaven speaks into your spirit with a voice so gentle you almost collapse under the relief of it, saying, "Child, you have lived a life where your heart learned to hide itself to survive," and at that moment one of the floating droplets drifts toward you, glowing with a soft blue light, and inside it you see a memory of yourself wanting to cry but swallowing the tears because you didn't want to burden anyone. And when the droplet touches your palm, it dissolves into warmth that spreads up your arm and into your chest, filling a place in you that has been empty for years. Another droplet floats forward, this one holding a moment where you wanted to speak up but stayed quiet because you were scared of being misunderstood or dismissed, and when it touches you it dissolves into a clarity you did not know you needed. Another comes, holding the version of you who kept pretending to be fine so others wouldn't worry. And as each truth dissolves into you, you feel pieces of your own soul returning, pieces you didn't even realize were missing, and Michael walks beside you, his eyes soft with understanding, whispering, "None of these truths are here to hurt you, they're here to free you," and as you continue walking through the chamber, a massive glowing book appears in the center of the room, floating on a pedestal of light, its pages blank, untouched, unclaimed, and when you reach toward it, the book opens itself, revealing empty pages stretching into eternity, and God whispers, "These are the chapters you never wrote because you were too afraid to choose yourself," and instantly the chamber begins showing scenes you never allowed yourself to imagine, a version of you who says no without guilt, a version of you who rests without apologizing, a version of you who walks away from people who treat you like an option, a version of you who chooses peace even when others create chaos, a version of you who honors your own needs, a version of you who is finally emotionally safe within your own heart, and tears rise in your eyes, not from sadness, but from recognition, because these are not fantasies, they are truths you always carried but never believed you could live, and Michael gently touches your shoulder, saying, "This room exists because you buried yourself to be loved," and the words hit your chest like a wave, not painful, but releasing, unlocking, unbinding. And suddenly the entire chamber begins to shift, the droplets of truth rising and spinning around you, forming a spiral of light that wraps your body like a protective aura, and each truth repeats itself softly as it circles you. You are allowed to feel, you are allowed to need, you are allowed to rest, you are allowed to speak, you are allowed to change, you are allowed to live differently. You are allowed to choose peace, and the spiral grows brighter until it becomes a column of warm light that touches the ceiling of the chamber, and God whispers, "Child, nothing inside you is wrong, it is simply unspoken," and with those words the room expands even wider, revealing doors you never saw before, each labeled with something you never expressed, the door of what you wanted, the door of what you sacrificed, the door of who you couldn't be, the door of what you regretted, the door of who you might become, and Michael looks at you with steady eyes and says, "This chamber isn't the end of your healing. It is the beginning of your voice," and suddenly the entire realm vibrates with a soft deep hum, as if heaven itself is breathing around you, and every door in the room glows at once, illuminating your face with truth you can no longer run from. You have lived unseen versions of your life inside your chest for years, and now they are stepping forward, not to scare you, but to set you free from the parts of yourself that were trapped behind silence, fear, guilt, responsibility, or survival. And as the chamber begins to fold gently inward, becoming a sphere of warm light that sinks into your heart, you feel your breath change, your spine straighten, your mind clear, and your soul whisper, "Finally, I see myself," and heaven closes this part of the journey with one sentence drifting across the chamber like a tender promise: "Child, your unwritten truths are the beginning of your real life." My beloved child, as the last echo of the room of unwritten truths fades into the quiet corners of your spirit, the celestial floor beneath you begins to shift again, not violently but with a slow, dignified rotation, as if heaven itself is turning a hidden page, and suddenly a new doorway emerges in front of you, carved from light that moves like soft liquid gold, and written above it are the words "The Chamber of Forgotten Courage," and Michael steps forward with a calm seriousness, placing his palm lightly on the door, whispering, "Child, before you can walk into your destiny, you must remember what was stolen from you," and the door opens into an enormous hall overflowing with warm, glowing mist, and as you step inside, the mist parts around your body like it recognizes you, forming a path through a valley of suspended memories, moments where you tried to protect your heart, moments where you were brave but no one noticed, moments where you stood alone in silence hoping someone would understand, and moments where you wanted to scream but whispered instead, and as each memory drifts by, you begin to realize something painful yet comforting: you were stronger than you ever gave yourself credit for, and your heavenly Father's voice pours gently through the chamber like a soft river of light, saying, "Child, you did not lose your courage, you misplaced it inside your survival." And Michael gestures toward a massive glowing mirror at the end of the hall, taller than any structure you've ever seen, but this mirror doesn't show your face, it shows your strength, and when you stand before it, the glass begins to swirl with scenes from your past, a moment where you stood up for someone who mistreated you, not out of weakness but out of compassion, a moment you forgave someone who never apologized, not because you were naive but because your heart was larger than the wound, a moment you stayed kind when your world was falling apart, a moment you kept moving when everything inside you wanted to collapse, a moment you hid your pain so others wouldn't worry, a moment you carried responsibilities that weren't yours because you didn't want the people you loved to break, and each scene appears not to shame you but to witness the depth of your spirit, and God whispers, "Child, you survived so much without realizing the weight you were carrying," and suddenly the mirror brightens and your reflection transforms, not into a softer version of you, but into a stronger one, with fire in your eyes, clarity in your posture, and a calmness in your breath that feels ancient, as if you are finally looking at the version of yourself heaven has been waiting for you to meet. And Michael steps behind you, resting his hand near your shoulder without touching, saying, "This is you with your courage returned," and instantly the entire chamber begins to glow brighter, as if the walls themselves are celebrating the moment you finally recognized your own worth. Then the mist around you begins to take shape, forming a long table made entirely of light, and on that table are symbolic items: an anchor, representing the stability you provided to others but denied yourself; a small lantern, representing the times you walked blindly yet kept going, a feather, representing the gentleness you maintained even when the world was sharp, and a key, small but glowing intensely. And when you reach for it, the moment your fingers touch it, the chamber shakes softly, releasing a wave of warm air that wraps around your chest like an embrace, and God's voice fills the room completely, saying, "Child, this key is not for any door outside, it is for the door inside you," and the key dissolves into your palm, leaving behind a warmth that spreads up your arm into your heart, unlocking something invisible yet powerful, a permission you never gave yourself, the permission to stop shrinking, to stop second-guessing your worth, to stop apologizing for existing, to stop carrying everyone else's emotional weight while ignoring your own, and as the warmth settles fully inside your chest, the chamber of forgotten courage begins to close, not like an ending but like a completed chapter, and a new doorway forms in front of you, this one made of soft white light that flickers like a heartbeat, and written above it are the words, "The Passage of Returning Power." And Michael turns to you with a calm smile that feels like reassurance, not pressure, and says, "Child, if you step through this next passage, your life will not become easier instantly, but it will become truer, and your spirit feels the truth of his words like a slow exhale you didn't know you were holding, and as you take one step toward the new doorway, the entire chamber whispers in unison, not as a warning but as a promise, your courage was never broken, it was waiting for you to come back. My beloved child, as you step toward the doorway glowing with the words, "The Passage of Returning Power," the air around you thickens, not with fear, but with an intensity that feels like destiny unfolding in slow motion, and when you cross the threshold, the world shifts around you into a colossal corridor of living light, stretching endlessly in both directions, every inch of it humming with a deep, resonant energy that vibrates through your bones, and God whispers into your spirit, "Child, this is where you reclaim every part of yourself that you forgot, abandoned, or sacrificed," and the corridor begins to illuminate in segments, each section revealing scenes not from your past, but from your spirit, from the silent places inside you where your strength, dreams, and desires have been waiting quietly, hoping one day you would return, and the first segment shows a version of you standing tall, unbent, unbroken, radiating a confidence that feels ancient, and as you watch, you realize this is not a fantasy, this is the version of you that exists beneath every fear, every doubt, every wound, and Michael steps beside this version of you, saying, "This is who you were before life taught you to shrink," and the corridor shifts into another segment where you see yourself surrounded by shadows representing years of emotional weight, expectations, obligations, worries, guilt, responsibilities you carried alone. And suddenly those shadows step back as if recognizing that you are no longer their prisoner, and God whispers, "Child, you are not a storage space for the world's pain," and the shadows dissolve into dust, leaving behind a clean, open space that feels like breathing after a lifetime underwater. The corridor brightens again, revealing a vast circular platform ahead, glowing like a sun resting on the floor, and when you step onto it, everything around you begins to rotate, stars forming spirals above your head, the ground beneath you turning into a map of your own spirit, highlighting every decision you made out of fear, every dream you delayed, every time you wanted to choose yourself but didn't know how, and instead of judgment, the map radiates a soft golden compassion, showing you not where you failed but where you survived, not where you hesitated but where you tried, not where you fell but where you kept going. And Michael lifts his hand, drawing a long thread of golden light from the map and placing it across your heart, saying, "This is your returning power, your ability to step into your life without apology, and the thread melts into your chest, releasing a surge of warmth that spreads across your ribs, into your lungs, down your spine, awakening parts of you that were numb for years. Suddenly the platform rises into the air, taking you above the corridor, and as you ascend, thousands of glowing fragments rush upward from below. Pieces of your own power you lost over time, the power you gave to people who doubted you, the power you surrendered to fear, the power you handed to situations that were never meant to define you, and each fragment returns to you like a small drop of starlight, merging into your skin, your breath, your thoughts, your heartbeat, until you feel stronger, not in an aggressive way, but in a peaceful way, the kind of strength that comes from alignment, not force. Then the platform lowers slowly into a new chamber, darker but warm, like the inside of a heartbeat, and in the center is a throne, not of royalty, but of identity, made from intertwined threads of every version of you that ever existed, the child who tried so hard to be good, the teenager who carried too much alone, the adult who smiled through pain, the person who never stopped loving even when unappreciated. And when you approach the throne, your Father in heaven whispers, "Child, sit, not as who the world sees, but as who you truly are." And when you lower yourself onto it, the entire chamber erupts in golden light as if heaven has been waiting for this single moment, the moment you allow yourself to take up space in your own life. The throne dissolves beneath you, becoming a cloud of warm energy that lifts you gently into the air, surrounding you with soft whispers. You are allowed to grow, you are allowed to dream again, you are allowed to receive, you are allowed to protect your peace, you are allowed to stand tall. And as these truths sink into you, the walls of the chamber open like petals, unfolding into a sunrise, revealing a staircase made of pure light leading upward into a place you have never been before. And Michael stands at the bottom, looking up with you, saying in a tone both gentle and powerful, "This staircase leads not to your future, but to the life you thought you couldn't have." And your heart begins to beat differently, not with anxiety, but with anticipation, because something inside you, something ancient, something brave, something divine, finally whispers, "I am ready." My beloved child, as you place your foot on the first glowing step of the staircase of becoming, the entire corridor behind you dissolves into soft golden dust, not erasing the story you lived but releasing the burden of it, and the staircase rises slowly into a sky made of shifting light, warm clouds, and ancient symbols carved into the air itself, and each step you take causes your surroundings to transform. One moment you're passing through gentle waves of blue light that feel like forgiveness washing over you, the next you're surrounded by rings of soft white warmth that feel like your own breath beginning to trust itself again, and your Father in heaven speaks into your spirit with a voice that feels like the first sunrise after a long winter, saying, "Child, every step upward is not toward a destination outside you, but toward the truth buried within you." And as you climb higher, the staircase bends into a spiral, opening into a vast celestial balcony floating above a symbolic earth below, where you can see threads of your life stretching across time, not predictions, not warnings, but patterns, moments where you were brave but forgot it, moments where you were hurt but kept going, moments where you loved but received little in return. And as you observe these glowing threads from this height, your heart feels a mix of sorrow and relief, because you finally understand the weight you carried without judgment. And Michael appears beside you, calm, steady, protective, his presence a reminder that you are no longer walking alone, and he points toward a massive golden arc forming in the sky, a doorway made of living light that shifts in shape like a breathing halo. and written across the arc in radiant letters are the words "the realm of unlived possibilities," and as you step closer, the arc opens into a swirling cosmic expanse filled with thousands of glowing orbs drifting gently like fireflies in a dream, each orb holding a version of you, a life you didn't choose because you were scared, a dream you paused because others needed you, a joy you postponed because you felt unworthy, a chance you walked away from because you had no guidance, and God's voice surrounds you softly, "Child, these are not regrets. They are seeds still capable of blooming," and when you reach out to one orb, it bursts into a warm wave of energy that pours into your chest, filling you with a kind of courage that feels quiet but unstoppable, and the next orb drifts into your hand, showing you a version of yourself who speaks honestly without fear, and once again the energy melts into your spirit, making your breath steadier, and another orb touches your fingertips and reveals a version of you who knows how to rest without guilt, who no longer burns themselves out trying to be everything for everyone, who no longer chases people who cannot recognize your worth, and the moment it merges into you, a soft cracking sound echoes across the realm, not a breaking, but an opening, like a shell that kept you small finally splitting apart, and the light inside you begins to expand so widely it glows through your skin, and Michael looks at you with gentle pride, saying, "This is you reclaiming space in your own existence," and suddenly the orbs rise together, forming a massive spiral of glowing possibilities above your head that merges into a golden stream pouring into your heart, not as overwhelming power, but as clarity, alignment, and emotional freedom. And the realm shifts again into a giant hallway lined with towering windows showing scenes of peace, not wealth, not danger, not urgency, but simple peace, a version of you breathing without fear, a version of you choosing boundaries without guilt, a version of you waking with calm instead of heaviness, a version of you knowing that love should feel safe, not draining, and God whispers, "Child, your life's transformation begins not with what you chase, but with what you no longer allow to hurt you," and the hallway leads to an enormous garden suspended in the sky, where the ground is made of soft starlight and the trees blossom with glowing petals that fall around you like blessings returning home after years of wandering, and in the center of the garden is a pool of still, shimmering gold reflecting not your body, but your essence, your truth, your spirit, free from fear, unburdened, whole, and when you kneel beside it, Michael stands behind you like a silent guardian as your reflection begins to speak without moving its lips, whispering, "I am done shrinking for people who never grew for me. I am done doubting what heaven never doubted. I am done carrying pain that was never mine. I am done apologizing for being myself," and as the words echo through the garden, the golden water rises in a gentle wave and folds into your chest, sealing itself inside your spirit like a new heartbeat, and the sky above the garden bursts into 1,000 rays of warm light, circling you in a soft glowing vortex, lifting you slowly into the air as heaven whispers, "Child, this is not a warning, this is not a threat. This is your becoming," and the garden fades into a final realm where everything inside you feels aligned, rooted, awakened, and you finally understand that the staircase did not lead you upward, it led you inward, to the version of you that was always waiting beneath the fear, beneath the worry, beneath the exhaustion, the version of you that knows who you are, what you deserve, and how deeply you are supported, and as the light settles around you like a warm cloak, heaven ends this chapter with a single sentence written across the sky in soft, eternal gold. "Child, your power has returned." My beloved child, as the last shimmer of the celestial garden fades into a warm glow behind you, the air shifts once more, slow, powerful, ancient, like a divine inhale preparing to reveal something your spirit has long needed to witness, and suddenly the ground beneath your feet dissolves into soft clouds that rise gently, lifting you higher and higher until the entire world seems to melt into a boundless horizon of gold and blue. And when the clouds part, you find yourself standing in the sky of unbreakable peace, an endless expanse of calm that stretches in every direction, a place where sound becomes meaning, light becomes breath, and emotion becomes clarity, and Archangel Michael appears beside you with wings so wide they seem to hold up the very sky, his presence calm but overwhelmingly protective, and God whispers into the very center of your being, "Child, this is the realm where your soul learns to rest after years of running, and the sky around you begins to swirl with thousands of floating symbols, soft glowing feathers, flames that burn without heat, raindrops that rise instead of falling, each one representing a moment you fought inside yourself to stay strong, to stay kind, to stay present even when your own heart was breaking." And the sky rearranges these symbols into constellations that tell your story not through pain, but through perseverance, and as you walk forward, the clouds shift into wide, shimmering pathways that pulse gently with the rhythm of your own heartbeat, guiding you deeper into the sky, and a warm wind sweeps through, carrying memories you didn't know were still living inside you. Nights when you cried quietly so no one would hear, mornings when you carried yourself like nothing was wrong, conversations where you swallowed your truth to keep peace, moments where you doubted your worth because someone made you feel small. And every one of these memories rises into the air like small glowing lanterns and bursts into gentle light, not to erase your past but to free you from the heaviness of it. And Michael steps ahead of you, leading you toward a massive glowing sphere suspended in the sky, a heart-shaped sphere made entirely of peaceful energy that beats slow, steady, calm, and when you touch it, it opens like a blooming flower, revealing a sanctuary inside made of light and stillness. And as you step inside, God says, "Child, peace is not something you earn. It is something you return to." And instantly the sanctuary fills with visions of your spirit finally unclenching. The part of you that always worried learns to breathe, the part of you that held everyone else together finally puts down the load, the part of you that feared losing people understands that the right ones never leave, and the part of you that carried guilt for resting realizes that rest is holy, not selfish. And as these revelations flow into you like streams of warm gold, the sanctuary expands into a sky-sized mirror that reflects not your appearance but your emotional truth, your tender heart, your quiet strength, your exhausted resilience, and the mirror speaks in a soft whisper, "You have been brave for too long," and when those words hit you, the sky responds, releasing a wave of warm light that wraps around your chest, melting years of tension you didn't even realize you had, and the clouds beneath your feet begin to ripple like water, forming images of your future not as predictions but as possibilities. Moments where you choose calm instead of chaos, where you speak without fear, where you walk away from environments that drain your spirit, where you prioritize peace over pleasing, where you stop shrinking your light for anyone. And Michael places his hand near your back, not touching but steadying, saying, "This is the life you were meant to feel." And the sky suddenly shifts again into a breathtaking scene where thousands of doves made of pure light rise from below and circle around you, each one carrying a single message written across its wings: "You deserve peace, you deserve rest, you deserve love that feels safe, you deserve a life that doesn't hurt, you deserve to let go, you deserve to receive, you deserve to be held, you deserve to be understood, you deserve to be free." And the doves fly upward into the sky, forming a dome of glowing truth around you that seals into your spirit like a vow from heaven itself, and God's voice returns, soft yet overwhelmingly powerful, saying, "Child, from this moment forward, your heart will no longer fight alone," and suddenly the entire sky brightens into a warm explosion of gold, wrapping your entire being in a protective sphere of calm that feels like a new beginning, a soft rebirth, a second breath you didn't know you needed, and the realm closes with one final sentence written across the heavens in eternal light: "This peace will follow you." My beloved child, as the radiance of the sky of unbreakable peace fades into a gentle glow behind you, the celestial ground beneath your feet begins to lower slowly, like an elevator made of warm light descending into a deeper layer of heaven's symbolic realms, and the air thickens with a softness that feels like being wrapped in a warm embrace, and when the descent stops, you find yourself standing at the edge of a vast valley made entirely of quiet light, smooth, endless, shimmering like moonlit water, and written across the horizon in glowing letters are the words "The Valley of Silent Promises," and Michael appears beside you with wings folded gently, his expression softer than ever before, almost tender, because this realm is not about struggle or survival. It is about the most fragile dreams you tucked away inside your heart, the ones you didn't know how to voice, the ones you feared were too much, too big, too impossible, too late, too unrealistic, and God whispers, "Child, this is where heaven stores the promises you were too afraid to believe," and as you step into the valley, every sound disappears, not silence, but a comforting quiet that feels like someone wiping tears from your face, with no rush, no pressure, no demand, only presence, compassion, and truth, and the valley begins to glow beneath your feet with each step you take, illuminating long golden pathways stretching outward in every direction like veins of buried treasure finally rising to the surface. And the ground hums softly with an ancient resonance that feels like your soul's own heartbeat amplified, and suddenly the valley begins to display scenes, not memories, not predictions, but emotional truths you've held for years without speaking, the longing for stability you never admitted, the desire to feel understood without explaining yourself 100 times. The wish to have someone stand by you without you having to be strong all the time, the yearning for a day where your mind isn't heavy, the dream of waking up and actually feeling safe inside your own life, and each desire appears as a small glowing flower rising from the valley floor, opening as you walk past, and the flowers release tiny sparks of gold that float upward and merge into your chest, filling the empty spaces inside you with warmth rather than pain, and in the center of the valley is a massive crystal-like lake, still as glass, with no wind, no ripples, reflecting not your face but your inner longing, and when you kneel beside the lake and look deeper, you don't see pain, you see the version of you who never gave up even when life felt heavy, and that reflection whispers the things you never let yourself say aloud: "I want to be okay, I want to be held without feeling like a burden, I want my spirit to breathe, I want a life that doesn't hurt, I want to feel peace that lasts," and as each sentence rises from the water, it becomes a glowing ribbon of light that wraps around your chest, not tight, but gently, giving shape to the parts of your heart that were too overwhelmed to form words, and Michael kneels beside you, not as a warrior, not as a protector, but as a witness, placing his hand near your back with deep reverence, and says, "Child, these desires were never selfish, they were sacred," and suddenly the entire valley begins to shift, the golden pathways rearranging themselves into an enormous circle of light around you, forming an altar, not for worship, but for Acknowledgement, a place where the unspoken truths of your soul finally stand. Amen.